this point, a Mexican standoff. And it wasn't that we were trying to be brave and face this animal. Is we were frozen in fear, shock, and I don't think either of us knew what to do. But while this thing was standing there, Bones, he kept looking over his shoulder to the embankment behind us. My other friend and I kind of caught on, and we started never wanting to take our eye off of this dog man, but we wanted to see what was behind us. And we never did see it. We heard it. That's when the fear almost set in tenfold, that we knew that this guy wasn't alone. I mean, to catch a deer in the middle of the woods, you know, a deer can change angles. It could be going one way and make a left turn, make a right turn. And anything that catches a deer in the middle of the woods, and I know how fast a deer can run, has got to have speed, strength, and agility that we just don't understand. Maybe one of the superheroes that, you know, the kids watch might have a chance. But this was a real creature. We had brought some pistols with us, only for coyotes, because, you know, coyotes can be a little vicious. I know quite a bit about firearms. Anything from the smallest little 22 up into the 458 lot elephant guns or the 570 nitros and everything in between. I knew what we had. We would have been better off picking a rock up and throwing it. So we never did shoot. After we could move a little bit and kind of come back to reality, this thing made a bluff charge. With the first millisecond, I didn't know that it was a bluff charge. And everything ran through my mind at that point. Because I knew this thing was built from the ground up, if it chose to, be a killing machine. The speed in which it made those 3 or 4 steps was the speed of I want you to picture a cat that is swiping its paw at something really fast. Like maybe it's trying to, if a dog comes up to it, it might strike the dog in the face with the paw. You don't realize the paw has hit you until it's hit you. You know, you didn't even see it coming. But it stopped. This thing actually looked at all 3 of us like it was sizing us up. It wasn't just an animal standing there. It had sized us up. You could definitely see at that point that it would make a real quick look across the river. That just added to the fear. Standing in water, I'm not sure, but I really do. I think I wet myself. Because this is going against the grain of everything that I was taught, everything that I had learned, and a creature that don't exist. But I'm here to tell you they exist. They're real. So the only real option we had in order to get behind us was those vertical banks in the water. But the only way to really get up on the land would be to walk up, brush the dog man aside, step over what he just killed, and go up there. Well, I got news for you folks. That's not happening. You know, not me. But at the end of its little bluff charge, it growled at us. No barking or anything like that, but it growled at us. We were probably, at the most, when we stopped, 25 feet. And this thing took a 10-foot bluff charge. Now we're even closer. And when it growled at us, it opened its mouth a little bit. I could see the canines, or the teeth, whatever you want to call them. This growl was so deep. The lung capacity of this animal has to be incredible. In order to make that sound and hold that sound, it reverberated through every bone in your body. You really do. You think, if my family finds me, it's going to look like I've been chopped up and, ready to put into a mayonnaise jar. That's how well built these animals are. The legs of this animal, just to give you a little perspective, they were muscularly enormous. Now I wear a 32, 33 waist pants. Each of its thighs were about as big as my waist, if that gives you any idea of the lower part. And then the upper part, you could see dog features, but it was more manly. This thing actually had a chest, had biceps like a man. I'm not going to say the hands were like a man, because a man's hand is not that frightening to look at. This thing was kind of black in color with some gray, but the fingernails were coal black and a good inch long. Maybe an inch and an eighth, I don't know. And they were curved, but they weren't curved like a hawk or something like that. But they were curved. They were meant for grabbing something and holding on to it, kind of like a cat when it extends its claws. It can play with a mouse and just hook it with one of its claws. But these claws look like they could rip if they wanted to as well. They weren't like fingernails. They were flat. They were roundish, and they came down to that point. I can give you these descriptions because I was within spitting distance of this thing. It did have a tail, but by now we're trying to back out. We're walking backwards. Don't ask me why, but we still had the guns in our hand. I think had we fired a shot at that thing, it would have been our own demise. Initially, we had only brought the little handguns just in case the coyotes got a little crazy. Because there's times when we used to fish little rivers that we would carry the grating of them little hibachi grills, and I would put it in my backpack, and we would stop on the clear spot on the edge of the river, and, we would eat what we caught that morning. And I think back on that now, how stupid that was. But then again, for some reason, being, within a half mile of the road, and you're not far from civilization at all, it kind of takes the fear factor away. I'm sure it's nothing like being out in the Midwest, in the middle of nowhere, worrying about a grizzly bear. I would have rather faced 2 grizzly bears at this point, because the evilness that comes with this thing, part of me wants to say that this creature is from somewhere else, that it's not here. Somehow it just made it here. But I'm slowly learning. Vic educated me a lot on a lot of things I didn't know. These things are indigenous to our land. I'm not talking right here in the middle of the country. I'm talking if they want to, right into suburban USA. Right in, your backyard. You never know if you have dogs outside that are going crazy, or if you have a dog that wants to crawl under the bed for no reason. There just might be a reason for that. Like I said earlier, I had a pit bull that I don't think he was afraid of anything. Before that day, he wouldn't get out of the truck. That really struck me as odd. And when you look back on these events, hindsight's always 20/20. Maybe seeing the tracks in the sand were enough to say, hey, we need to get out of here. This is something we don't know what it is. I had the average size hand. This print was bigger than my hand. So as we're backing out, slowly but surely, we could hear on the opposite bank something paralleling us that was not trying to be stealthy. It wasn't trying to hide from us. It did hide from us to the point where we really didn't see it. But you got to remember, we're down in the river. We would have to look up to see it. with the banks of the river being about 6 feet of mud, it could have been 6 feet off the side and we couldn't have been able to see it. But regardless, it was paralleling us to the truck. Once we had got a quarter of a mile away, that's when we started beating feet as best we could. I don't know if this hurts the program or not, but I forgot to say about it did pick the deer up as we were backing out. This is something that didn't have to take its teeth and drag the animal like any other predator that I know of. This is something that it looked like a mature deer, picked it up and walked away with it. And the whole time in the background, you could hear the yipping of the coyotes, almost like they were in some kind of ecstasy. I don't know. As we were backing out, we crossed that sandbar that we had seen with the track. But this time, not only did we see the track that we had seen where it or another one had crossed right there as well, going the other way. So in reality, as we were fishing, these things were all around us. I'm sure now they watched us get out of the truck. I'm sure of it. But once we got where we thought we could turn around, and you can't run in thigh-deep water, but you can try to make your best effort. We got in the truck, and neither one of us had a fishing pole to bring back. We had dropped them. Not that I cared, but we dropped our fishing poles. When we got up to where the fence is, it's a real effort to get through. You almost gotta go underwater with your head and come back up. But we all got through, and the embankment where the bridge crossed to go up to the truck, it's probably 50 feet, I would say. Slimy, dirty, muddy. Well, I can guarantee you, Vic, we set the record in the time that it would take a man to get from the bottom of the top, to the truck.